Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to try something a little different. We're
Mhm.
taking this massive global conflict and we're going to focus it, really narrow it down to the experience of just one person.
Which is so important. I mean, we get so lost in the numbers, the statistics, that we lose the human story.
Exactly. So we're moving past the big picture on purpose. The source material we're working from today is this really powerful piece called Motherhood Amid the Rubble of Gaza.
It's a very personal account.
It is. And our mission here is to use that personal story, this one lens, to understand the immediate human cost of survival in this conflict.
Yeah.
We're not looking at battle plans. We're looking at what happens in the temporary
In
shelters.
the day-to-day.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The whole story is centered on a mother in Gaza named Amal Alabadla. And when you start to map her family's timeline onto the conflict's timeline, it's just incredible.
It's a collision.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only word for it. And you have to start with her newborn son, Mohammed, because his life is, well, it's completely tied to this escalation. He was born on October 7, 2023,
The exact day.
the exact day it all began. And that's a specific date. It just frames everything. Amal enters this incredibly vulnerable postpartum period. At the very same moment, the entire region enters this state of, extreme external threat.
That timing. It's more than just a piece of trivia. It's an immediate emergency for her. It means she never got a chance to set up a support system or rest or find a stable place.
Not at all. All the normal challenges of having a newborn, sleep deprivation, keeping things clean for feedings, they all suddenly have life or death stakes attached.
And it wasn't just the newborn, Muhammad. She was also caring for her older son, Noah.
Yeah, a toddler. He's only 18 months old.
So you have the two most vulnerable people you can imagine in a conflict. An infant who is totally dependent for everything, food, warmth.
And a toddler who needs constant supervision, constant comfort. It really amplifies the basic demands of survival.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you're an adult on your own, you can, get by on very little for a while. But with a newborn and a toddler, survival isn't just about finding a safe corner. It's about managing this constant stream of very specific risks.
So it raises this huge question, which is really what we need to analyze. How does a new mother handle the basics, like clean water for a bottle or just keeping a newborn warm, in a place where infrastructure has just collapsed?
The source really highlights this. Simple logistics become these huge, dangerous hurdles.
Can you give us an example? We hear about food shortages, but what's an immediate risk for the baby that we might not think about?
I think the biggest unseen enemy is sanitation failure. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
If you're constantly on the move, living in shelters, the ability to get clean water or sterilize a bottle just disappears instantly. So feeding Muhammad becomes a huge infection risk. You're talking about gastrointestinal issues, dehydration.
Which for an infant is.
It can be fatal, much faster than for an adult. And then there's temperature. Newborns are terrible at regulating their own body temperature. Without a stable shelter, without blankets, the risk of hypothermia is constant.
So Amal isn't just looking for shelter from bombs. She's fighting these invisible battles against infection and cold around the clock, all while recovering from childbirth herself.
It really reframes the whole idea of hardship, doesn't it?
It does. And the source goes into the specific conditions she's faced since he was born. It says she's endured constant bombardments, severe food shortages, and multiple displacements.
Just imagine the physical act of that displacement, fleeing with a baby in your arms and a toddler holding onto your leg.
Knowing that wherever you're going is probably just another temporary spot. The sheer physical effort for a mother who's just given birth I can't even fathom it.
And it changes motherhood itself.
Mm-hmm.
It goes from being about nurturing to just pure protection. Every decision is a risk calculation. And the food shortages, they affect her ability to feed herself, which directly impacts her ability to breastfeed or even have the energy to carry them.
The vulnerability just cascades down from her to the children.
Immediately.
And here's the part that really stood out to me about her support system,
Yeah.
or the lack of one. The source is very clear. She's doing all of this alone. Her husband isn't there.
No, he works in the West Bank.
Right.
And if you connect the dots, that becomes one of the deepest burdens in this whole story.
Yeah.
Because the conflict started before he could get home, her husband has never met their newborn son, Mohammed.
Wow. He's never met his own child.
Think about that. It's not just heartbreaking, it's a critical survival problem. She's facing all this danger with 2 kids under 2, and she is missing that second person.
The second pair of hands.
The second pair of hands you need to carry things, to watch Noah while she feeds the baby, to stand in line for water. Her isolation isn't just emotional grief. It becomes a genuine liability. It just accelerates the exhaustion.
And you see that reflected in what she describes. The source says she recalled fleeing airstrikes and living in temporary shelters under harsh conditions. It's this constant state of insecurity.
Yeah, there's no real lasting safety.
Now, her personal account exists within this larger context, and the
Yeah.
source material includes this, so we have to report it impartially.
Right. It's crucial. The source itself explicitly includes the claim that Israel states it is dismantling terrorist networks in Gaza and that it doesn't target civilians. This is the official justification that's provided.
And that statement is put right next to Amal's lived experience.
Directly contrasted. Her experience of enduring constant bombardments and being forced to move again and again.
So for you, the listener, it's important to see how the source presents these two things side by side.
Yes. It forces you to see the huge gap between a stated military goal dismantling networks, avoiding civilians, and the actual tangible consequence for a civilian like Amal. Her story becomes the measure of the on-the-ground impact, regardless of intent.
It's the perfect example of the tension between policy and consequence.
Her life is the human translation of a geopolitical statement.
So, okay, moving on from the physical and the logistical.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the psychological reality. The fear must be constant. How do you even maintain your sanity, your ability to make these decisions?
This is where the story shifts. It moves from survival to resilience. And the source actually details her main coping mechanism. It's something very elemental.
What is it?
She recalled holding her sons tightly during bombings and consciously trying to stay strong despite her own, inner pain.
So that act of holding them, it's more than just for comfort.
Oh, absolutely. It's a functional psychological strategy. She's terrified, but by holding them, she's creating this tiny, secure bubble in a world that's completely hostile.
So she's projecting calm for them.
She's projecting calm, which lets her compartmentalize her own fear. It's a way to delay processing her own trauma. And that physical connection, it grounds her. It reminds her why she has to keep going.
It gives her a focus point, a
Yeah.
way to resist being paralyzed by terror.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The resilience isn't born from some kind of detachment. It comes from this fierce, active connection to them. Her motivation isn't some vague idea of hope. It's tangible. It's right there in her arms.
And the source mentions her ultimate source of strength.
Yes, and it's so disarmingly simple. Amal says that her children's smiles give her the strength to continue fighting for a better future for them.
A smile.
That small, fleeting thing. It becomes the entire fuel source for navigating this daily trauma. It's a remarkable testament to the power of parental hope.
It really grounds this immense conflict in something universal. The desire to see your kids happy, even when the world around you is just, well, rubble and temporary shelters.
That's the very definition of hope.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We took this deep dive, we moved past the numbers, and we came out with this really detailed snapshot of Amal's ordeal.
A very human snapshot.
Yeah. And the key facts that really define it are the timing of Muhammad's birth on October 7th, which just amplified the danger from the very start.
Then the vulnerability of having his 18-month-old brother, Noah, which basically doubled the risk.
And the isolated husband stuck in the West Bank, that turned her isolation into a real survival problem.
And finally, that reality of fleeing between temporary shelters, fighting those invisible risks of sanitation and illness.
And we should reemphasize, this deep dive was focused purely on synthesizing the narrative and the claims that were present in this one source document.
By using this personal lens, you get a necessary counterpoint to all the abstract reporting. It forces us to remember that every single statistic represents a real family going through a specific, detailed ordeal.
It takes the weight of an entire conflict and places it right in the arms of one mother, holding her two sons. And it just reveals the extraordinary resilience needed to live a basic life.
Which brings us to our final thought, something for you to consider that builds on what we've discussed. The source highlights the grief of the father, who has never met his youngest son. Now, we've talked about the immediate impact on Amal, but what about the long term? How does that kind of missing connection at the very foundation of a family, a father who only knows his child through conflict and separation, how does that impact their identity, their future, long after the fighting stops?
Profound question.
What are the implications for a child whose earliest memories will be defined by that very disconnect? And what does recovery from that kind of foundational trauma even look like?